This reaction is he thought it was food poisoning, but it was leper. But Decker toss. Like so the link to the video will be the description below. Go and check them out. So let's into this reaction in 3, 2, 1.
Just after midnight, a man
Yeah.
pushed through the ER doors and collapsed into a wheelchair. He clutched his stomach so hard his knuckles went white. Sweat soaked his shirt. He looked at the triage nurse and breathed. I ate something bad. It's food poisoning. I can't stop vomiting. They treated him like any other patient with food poisoning. But the pain didn't match the usual pattern. And by dawn, the truth waiting in his body would shock everyone in that hospital. His name was Silas Hart, 29, from a small town in Ohio. He worked long shifts as a forklift operator. He kept his life private and steady. Silas had a quiet laugh and a way of listening that made people trust him. He lived with his partner, Jonah, who fixed cars at a local garage and loved Silas with all his heart. Years earlier, Silas had transitioned. He had chest surgery and had taken testosterone for many years. He built a life and identity as a man. What most people didn't know, and what Silas hardly thought about anymore, was that he had chosen not to remove his ovaries and uterus. They had become, in his mind, a part of the past he'd closed the book on. That private medical fact would become the key to the night's impossible discovery. A week before the ER visit, Silas felt odd. He was tired in
Yep, that's a baby bump. Yep.
a way sleep couldn't fix. He had mild cramps and felt bloated. He blamed long shifts, greasy food, and the stress of life. He skipped the doctor. He kept working. On the night he came to the hospital, the pain curled around his gut and hit in waves. He vomited twice. He said the right words, the words people expect for food poisoning. So the nurses gave him fluids, anti-nausea meds, and a bed. But the pain kept coming in regular, sharp waves. It tightened and then let go, like a slow drumbeat. One nurse, used to labor rooms and delivery wards, looked up from the monitor and frowned. These look like contractions, she said under her breath. Nobody said the word out loud at first. It seemed impossible. Dr. Marlowe was on duty, a calm surgeon who had seen strange things, but not this. He ordered basic blood work. When the lab results returned, they all stopped. The pregnancy hormone, HCG, was high, really high. The word circulated like a rumor. Could it be a tumor? Someone suggested. Could the test be wrong? Another asked. But the number continued to climb on repeat labs. They ran an ultrasound because the rhythm of the pain was impossible to ignore. On the screen, a clear shape moved, a small, familiar profile. A tiny heartbeat flashed at the edge of the image. The room held its breath. Silas lay there, white-faced and confused.
Oh, you pregnant. Congrats on being pregnant.
Asking, "What's that? Are you finding the thing that's poisoning me?"
It's a baby. There's a baby inside you.
He tried to laugh, but a contraction hit and his voice broke. Jonah arrived, frantic and shaking. He kept asking the nurses for answers. "Is it serious?" he asked, taking Silas's hand. Silas blinked at him, trying to understand the open faces around him. When they were gently told that the test suggested he was pregnant, both men recoiled. "No," Jonah said. "That can't be. He's a man." The words felt small in the bright hospital room. Silas remembered a time, years before, when he had stopped testosterone for a few months. Life had been messy then, a medication delay, a period of doubt, late nights where nothing made sense. He had thought he'd never return to that part of his body. He had never imagined getting pregnant. He had been careful usually, but not always. He had assumed it couldn't happen, or that if it did, he would know early on. Now the skin showed an obvious, full-term baby. No one had seen the signs. The weight gain he'd blamed on long shifts, the exhaustion he chalked up to stress, the cramps he passed off as indigestion. Testosterone had masked things. He'd assumed he was safe. The tiny life inside him had grown quietly. Doctors asked the hard questions, gently. The answer that fit the tests was both simple and surprising. Silas had retained his uterus and ovaries. After that period when he paused testosterone, his ovulation had returned. In private moments with Jonah, they had been intimate. They had not planned a child. They had never used reliable birth control because both believed it was unlikely. In one of those cycles, during an unprotected encounter, a sperm met an egg at the right time. Fertilization occurred naturally. It was a
Oh,
clinical sentence, but the meaning crashed into both men like a wave. A natural pregnancy.
yeah,
Nothing experimental, no clinics, no IVFs, just a chance meeting of egg and sperm. The timing had hidden itself in small choices and assumptions. Silence had grown a life. Silas felt a mix of disbelief, wonder, and fear. He had been living a life that fit his identity. Now he had to reconcile being a man in the world and the man who carried a child. When they told Silas
yes,
gently that he was in active labor, he clutched Jonah's hand like an anchor. He felt stripped of certainty. For years, he had built a version of himself, and the world had accepted it. Now, a body part he had tried to forget had become the center of everything. He worried about
yeah,
judgment from strangers, from family back home, from coworkers who only ever saw his beard and his strong hands. He worried about
yeah,
how to explain this to people who held tight to old boxes for gender and parenthood. But
yeah,
in that cold room, the nurses set aside judgment. Their faces were focused only on the facts: a body in pain, a baby approaching, and two men who needed help. The medical team moved with quiet efficiency. The personal conversation would come later. The contractions came faster. Monitors beeped warning signs. The team decided it was safest to deliver surgically. It wasn't a judgment call, it was a medical one. Silas's anatomy and the speed of events left them no option. Jonah walked with Silas until the operating room doors closed, then stopped at the window, breathing shallow and loud. He whispered promises he barely understood. "I'm right here. I love you. Hold on." In surgery, everything was sharp and bright. The team worked with urgency and care. Silas drifted between pain and words, hearing distant voices telling him to breathe, to focus, to hold on. He thought of his life, of tiny quiet things, of the usual Sunday
yeah.
mornings with Jonah, of the way Jonah hummed while changing a tire. Then a sound cut through the machines. A
Oh, a baby. Oh, that's a good baby.
newborn
Oh,
cry, raw and immediate. Tears streamed down doctors' faces and nurses' cheeks. The tiny life filled the room better than any light.
really good baby.
They wrapped the newborn and placed him on Silas's chest when he woke, pale and
Oh,
fragile, but whole. Silas felt a heat he didn't expect, the fierce, private swell of love that seemed to come from somewhere older than his confusion. Jonah bent over the little bundle, his eyes wet. The baby opened tiny fists and kicked like a small fire. "It's our baby," Jonah said, voice
yeah.
cracking. "You did this. We did this." The words felt both foreign and true. Silas only managed, "I thought it was food poisoning." It came out like a confession and a laugh in the same breath. They stayed in the hospital for days.
That's that's really good baby.
Social
Oh,
workers and counselors came by. They spoke slowly about options, about how the system worked, about privacy and paperwork and medical follow-ups. People in the hospital treated them with surprising kindness. Some nurses asked questions, some offered quiet hugs. The wider world might react in other ways, but in that room, the tiny family began to stitch itself together. Silas went through physical recovery and emotional turbulence. He felt grief for the certainty he had once known. He felt
yeah,
joy in the small face that fell asleep against his chest. He feared the coming conversations with family and friends, but he also discovered resilience he didn't know he had. Jonah became the picture of quiet strength. He handled diapers at 3 in the morning with a calmness that surprised them both. He told stories to the baby about the first rusted car he fixed, about the time
oh,
Silas
really?
taught him to change a tire. He said, softly, "We'll figure out what to tell people when the time comes. For now, we
Yeah.
hold him." Silas walked into the ER certain it was
Oh, that's a good baby. Oh,
food poisoning. He left with a son wrapped in a hospital blanket and a world he had to learn to name again. The night
yeah.
taught everyone in that hospital one thing:
That's a good baby. You're going to grow up to be a like a
the body does what the body can, and
yeah.
life can begin quietly inside choices we never planned for. This was not a science fiction story. It was real life, messy and human, a reminder that rules about identity and biology aren't always neat. If you were Silas or Jonah, what would you have done first after leaving the hospital? How would you tell someone you love about a surprise like this? Share your thoughts. And if you know a story that surprised you like this, tell it below.
A baby just come out and told him. There's there's no SM. I will just come up with it. Yeah, this is my baby. So yeah, yeah, I will just come up with it. Yeah. There was either it was food poisoning, it was level, but that got tossed. The link to the video will be the description below. Go and check them out and drop a like if you like. And comment below if you want to see more reaction like this one. And subscribe if you're new and click the bell so you can be notified from me upload in what time. Wow. Mm-hmm. That is a good baby, yeah. Wow.